everybody. Welcome to Scott Fox After 9. Today's episode is one that I have been looking forward to for almost 24 hours now. Today, again, we're going to talk about speed enforcement cameras because yesterday, Premier Doug Ford weighed in and said what I've been trying to explain for months now. These things are a tax grab. That's all they are. They are just there to make cities money, cities whose mayors are not good with a budget and cannot control their own spending. That's what those cameras are for, and the premier is going to back me up on this episode. But there's also some other things involving the premier, including some comments yesterday that I think may have been misinterpreted as him telling kids to go and look harder to find a job. But maybe he's not being taken out of context there. It's an interesting one, and I'm going to get to that on this episode. You're also going to hear from Liberal Cabinet Minister Patty Hajdu on this episode because she as well is talking about jobs. You're going to hear Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow talking about speed enforcement cameras. We've got a little bit of Donald Trump and Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre all coming up on this episode of Scott Fox After 9. Now, a couple of housekeeping items before I get to the content today. Number one, I know I promised you there'd be a silent date update. I do intend to do it, but I'm going to bump it back to Friday. Before I get to the listener DMs on Friday, I am going to do a silent date update. I just can't fit it in today. There's just too much stuff going on, but I will have that. And I thank you to the people who are interested in my friend, Silent Date Guy, who is doing real great in this new relationship that he's in. So Friday for that. I also want to mention that this morning on my radio show, I had a friend of mine on. His name is Jamie Kozub, and he runs the Burlington Dads group. And this started off as a small grassroots organization where some local guys on Facebook got together to try and help out a fellow guy in town who was struggling to pay his mortgage. It's evolved into a big group, a charitable initiative, and this coming weekend is their annual golf tournament, the 5th annual Burlington Dads golf tournament. So I'm going to play the interview that I did with Jamie this morning at the end of this episode, but I want to get this in right now. If you're free on Saturday and you're one of my amazing listeners in Southern Ontario, great golf tournament at a good golf course called Carlisle. It's in Carlisle, Ontario, Flamborough area. This tournament is good because you get a lot of value. You sign up for the tournament and you can go in as a single and they'll match you up with some other guys, or you can go in as a foursome. You get 18 holes of golf. You get a Burlington Dad's golf hat. That's an exclusive. You get a sleeve of Titleist golf balls, lunch, dinner, driving range access, and the practice green. You get a non-alcoholic drink included, 2 alcoholic drinks included, a golf towel, a swag bag filled with stuff from the sponsors, and much more. This is a great cause that is supporting mental health and families that are dealing with autism and more. And it's a good day out, too, where you can mix and mingle with other guys and girls, if they want to play, that are like-minded and want to support their own community. All the money stays local. So if you're available on Saturday, this tournament is, again, at Carlisle. You can go to burlingtondads.com. burlingtondads.com and get signed up. You can get all the info. Some of it that I just mentioned and more is on the website. Now, as a bonus, because I really want to see this tournament sell out, it's the 5th year they've done it, and it does raise money for a great cause. So here's what I'm throwing in. Anybody who is signed up for this tournament by 5 o'clock tomorrow, 5 o'clock Thursday, we're going to throw you in a draw. And if we draw your name, you're getting another round of golf for free, but you're going to play with me and Jamie. I'll do a round with you whenever it works for you and your schedule. Not in the morning, but anytime afternoon, I'll meet you and we'll have a round of golf, and that'll be on us. So if you're interested, burlingtondads.com, the 5th annual tournament. They raise a lot of money from this tournament, and we really need a few more golfers to fill it out because it's a 27-hole tournament. It's a 27-hole golf course, and the whole course is booked for this tournament. So need a lot of guys. If you're available, burlingtondads.com. Now, let me jump into the content that is coming up on this episode. And like I said, I am pretty pumped. Let's hear from Ontario Premier Doug Ford.
It's nothing but a tax grab. So, you know something? Hopefully the cities will get rid of them, like Mayor Del Duca did in Vaughan, or I'm going to help them get rid of them very shortly.
Let me pause the Premier right there. That is very interesting. This is something that I care deeply about because I think that the reason we have these speed enforcement cameras is not to do with public safety. It is because those cameras are in cities that are starving for money, and they thought this is a great opportunity to rip off their own citizens. These are mayors that cannot control their own spending. They need more money out of the people. So they have gone to this slimy route to try and get more revenue. And I think what bothers me even more is the fact that they lie to our faces and say they're about public safety. And they're going to throw up all kinds of stats and statistics to say that these things make the roads safer. They don't. And I'm going to tell you why. In case you missed my episode the other day where I explained the argument on these cameras, here is the simple fact. They do not make the roads safer, despite what the politicians say. By the way, the amount of politicians that are coming out and taking the bait, going on television even, and saying it is wrong to get rid of these cameras and, oh, we need these cameras, fighting for them even though people hate them. Like 30 of them have been cut down off their metal poles in the last week. Actually, in the last 48 hours, more than 30 of them by regular folks that have had enough of being gouged by their government. The reality is, if you want to slow down traffic, there's lots of ways to do it. Speed bumps are probably the most effective way to do it. Speed bumps slow people down, and the penalty for going over a speed bump too fast is you're going to need an alignment done and probably new tires and a lot of work done on your vehicle. It's going to be an expensive trip to the mechanic. We all know speed bumps slow people down. So do stop signs. So do police officers that are doing radar. In fact, the Premier mentioned that in his comments yesterday.
I have an idea. Why don't we put a police officer with a radar gun there every once in a while? So it'll be a radar drop and people will slow down. But to put this photo radar and some people driving through a neighborhood and they're 5-10 kilometers over, they're getting nailed, it's not fair. So I'm dead against this photo radar that they have.
Interesting that the Premier is also calling it photo radar. That's exactly what it is. And you know what? We had an election back in the 90s and Mike Harris was running for Premier and he ran on a platform of getting rid of photo radar. Well, somewhere along the line, I'm led to believe it was in 2017, the law changed and it allowed photo radar to be used again. Now, this is where the story gets a little interesting about how we ended up with photo radar again. It was allowed through municipal legislation that was passed again in 2017, but none of the municipalities did anything with it, really. It wasn't until within the last couple of years that someone pointed out to these mayors who are not good at math that, yeah, you can use these photo radar cameras. And they did. And they didn't just do it in school zones. They're putting them everywhere. The amount of people, since Doug Ford made that announcement yesterday, the amount of people that have reached out to me and told me stories about how slow they were going and the amount of the ticket they got, it's crazy. Clearly, people don't like these. And even if they were about public safety, when the public rejects something, the public are supposed to be the final say, not the politicians. I commend Doug Ford on saying these cameras got to go. I'm wondering what role he played, though, in these cameras coming back, because I was also led to believe by one of the many whistleblowers that has contacted me about this topic as well, that it was someone within the Ford government that pointed out to the cities when they were complaining about losing developer revenue that they could use these as a revenue tool. So I don't know if the Premier is aware of that, if he knows who pointed out to these mayors, they could do that. But either way, they shouldn't do that. And I'm glad to see Doug Ford standing up for the people here and saying enough's enough. The people don't want them, so they've got to go. Because, and he's absolutely right, they're a tax grab. We know there's other ways to slow people down. Sending them a ticket in the mail 7 to 10 days after they did it isn't teaching a lesson. It's not. And this is causing all kinds of other concerns, too. I've heard from a number of people that are complaining about these cameras because there's a camera on an adjacent street to the one they live on. People know that there's a camera there and they're very, very sensitive. So then they cut down streets where they know there's not a camera, streets that people live on. And then they've got speeding on those streets because people know there's no camera there. How about we just get rid of these cameras altogether, like the Premier suggested, and let people be? And you mayors that can't seem to figure your crap out here are just going to have to learn to live with the revenue you've got. You don't have to spend as much this year as you spent last year. In fact, spending less is something you would be greatly rewarded for by the people. Don't listen to the lobbyists. Don't listen to the do-gooders that are running around City Hall trying to get you to put up more libraries and buy electric buses. Don't listen to them. Your goal as a mayor should be to make life affordable for people in your community, and these cameras ain't it. Full stop. Good job, Doug Ford. Now I want to see you act on it. If these mayors, and some of them are hopping mad because they were banking on this revenue, if these mayors don't want to get rid of these cameras, Doug, you're going to have to take it right out of the legislation that they can. You're going to have to go back and revise a Kathleen Wynne policy and tell them, no, we do not have photo radar in Ontario. That's it. We don't do it. Take it away from them if these people can't have it. You know, these cities really overplayed their hand, too. If they would have just put them in school zones, maybe they would have a case. Maybe the public would get behind them, but they abused them. They put them everywhere. In some cases, I'll give you an example, Aurora, Ontario. I was surprised to learn this morning from their mayor, Mayor Tom, that the speed enforcement cameras in Aurora aren't even the city of Aurora's. They're the region of York's. One of the tickets that I got was in Caledon. I'm now told that one isn't even owned by Caledon. It's owned by the region of Peel. So now you've got cities and regions slapping up these cameras as fast as they can to try and get more money. And there's something fishy about these cameras, too. I do want to know more. I want to know who told these mayors to go ahead and do it. And I want to know why all the procurement on these cameras comes out of Toronto City Hall. You know, I would think that if you're the mayor of Kitchener, Ontario, who also has these cameras, by the way. What's up, Barry Verbanovic? You should get rid of those cameras. I'm telling you that right now. People hate them. If you're the mayor of Kitchener, why would you have to go through Toronto City Hall to procure one of these cameras? That's a weird one, too. I'm still getting information in from various different sources. I'm just saying that these cameras are bad news, and Doug Ford is absolutely right to call it out, and now he should start naming names. He pointed out the mayor of Vaughan, Ontario, Stephen Del Duca. There's somebody who listens to his constituents. His constituents said no. So they took the cameras out. More municipalities should do it. But you know who I don't think is going to do it? The city of Toronto. Let me bring in Mayor Olivia Chow, who did a news conference yesterday, as fired up as Olivia can get. She's angry that people are cutting down these cameras.
If you get hit by a car that's driving at 30K, 10% chance you'll die. 30K, okay, that's, 90% you're going to survive. If you are hit by a car at 40K, 30%. By 50 kilometers, that's 10 kilometers more than 40, it's 85% chance you're going to not survive. That's called fatality. Okay? I
can't imagine. How in the hell did she convince Toronto voters to vote for her? Listen to that completely asinine argument. And by the way, she's not the only one using it. I don't know who produced these numbers that say these speed enforcement cameras save lives, but I'm here to tell you they don't. And that is a very misleading set of numbers that Mayor Chow is putting out there. If that was the case, we wouldn't have any speed limits over 50 where people might possibly be walking or crossing the street. None. It's a completely ridiculous argument. Cities lowered speed limits in areas where those cameras are so they can catch more people speeding and generate more revenue. They're sucking money right out of people's wallets here.
We do know speed kills. We also know that from the Sick Kids study that the camera works. Red light cameras, the speed cameras work. What does it do? It actually slows people down.
No, it doesn't.
The Sick Kids Hospital had an incredibly in-depth.
I don't know who you paid at Sick Kids Hospital to produce these completely preposterous numbers, but I would like to interview that person. Whoever authored that study that empowered all of these mayors to go hog wild and put up cameras everywhere, I'd like to talk to you about the practicalities of navigating the roads as a driver, as a pedestrian, and as a cyclist. I want to talk to you because I don't believe you. I think your numbers are nonsense, and I think you did it just so that these mayors could stand up and point to something that says, what we want to do is what we should do. No, absolutely not. These cameras do not in any way slow you down. If the cameras slowed people down, we wouldn't need cameras anymore. One camera alone is billing $7 million a year. So clearly, they're not working. If that many people are still getting tickets, speed bumps work. Cops with radar guns work. Stop signs work. Flashing lights, crosswalks, they all work. What Olivia here is trying to justify is taking your money.
A review of that, and we know it's slow the cars down. So cutting down speed camera is not a joke. In fact, it is violating the criminal code 430. It's mischief over $5,000. It can maximum fine is 10 years in jail, maximum. So it's not a joke, it's a criminal offense.
Listen to Mayor Chow, mayor of the most lawless city in the country. An absolute disaster. People are afraid on transit and walking in the streets and gathering at the squares. People are terrified in Toronto because it's a lawless city. And do you ever hear Mayor Chow talking about bail reform? Do you ever hear Mayor Chow telling people to stop with the guns and stuff like that? No, of course you don't. But there she is warning you about how much time you're going to do in jail if you dare cut down the city's golden pony, the one that makes her all the money. Then you're going to see consequences because now you've got Olivia Chow's attention. Doesn't matter about all the rapes and murders and all the other things happening in Toronto. Olivia doesn't seem to care about that. She never talks about it. But here she is warning you. You could go to jail for 10 years, citing the criminal code for cutting down these cameras because the golden goose there isn't laying any eggs and Olivia's getting worried about cash. That's all it is. It's all about money.
Since the last few days, 16 cameras have been taken down. You add to it the one in Parkside, that's 17 cameras. I expect the police to do what they can to bring the criminals to justice and work with the city very closely to prevent further thefts, vandalism, destruction of public property, because we need to keep our community, our most vulnerable road users such as children and seniors safe.
That's a crutch. That is another talking point from mayors who don't know how to follow a budget or control themselves when it comes to spending. This is to protect the most vulnerable. This is to protect the kids and the seniors. I got one on Airport Road. There's no kids and there's no seniors. You can't cross that road. Who was I protecting there? Who are you protecting there? It's just complete and total nonsense. In fact, if I wasn't so entertained listening to this, I might even cut it off. But frankly, I'm enjoying myself right now, and I hope that this is providing a little bit of fodder for you if you ever encounter one of your elected individuals and the topic of speed cameras comes up. All the mayors want to keep these. All of them, because it gives them money that they weren't expecting. It's like finding extra cash in your pocket in a jacket that you haven't worn in a while. They love this stuff.
And already 250 people have been killed or seriously injured since 2024.
Mayor, have you had a chance to actually speak to the police chief about where the investigation's at? Because they're really not saying much of anything to us as far as where they're at.
Yes, I have spoken to the chief this morning, and he assured me he's going to bring the criminals to justice. As to how he's investigating, what kind of investigation unit, it's not, what methodology, where it's at, it's not up for me to comment. You have to ask the chief about that.
Again, listen to Olivia Chow, all of a sudden interested in crime. You know, she never has boo to say about anything unless it's cutting off her source of money. This is her falling on the sword. Oh my God, woe is me. These cameras keep getting cut down. Do you know how many people got assaulted on the TTC in the last week? Do you know how many distraction thefts there were? Do you know how much violent crime there's been? How many people got shot? When does Olivia Chow ever do news conferences about that? When does she ever talk to the police to find out what they're doing to solve the crime? She just cares about the money and she's going to take it from you. That's all there. You got to understand that if you live in Toronto.
So, but wait a minute, we've had months and months of this.
That's right.
We've had cameras chopped down. We have civilians that actually have taken surveillance video. We have no suspect descriptions from police, no arrest, nothing. How serious do you think police are taking this?
Well, the chief assured me that he is taking it very seriously. I cannot speak on behalf of the chief. He assured me he's going to bring these vandals, these criminals to justice, and he will help protect the speed camera. 17 cameras in the last 2 or 3 days. That's not a joking matter. And if one of those cameras are missing and people are speeding and someone get hit, by gosh, okay, then that person is responsible because the camera is down. Because we do know when we set up the cameras, where are they set up? They're setting up in community and school zones. Kids are going back to school this week. For heaven's sake, stop tampering with
my source of revenue. That's all she's doing. That's all she's doing. It's just complaining about nothing. Absolutely disgraceful performance from Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow. I hope everyone remembers this a year from now. Completely unfit for office, zero respect for taxpayers or her citizens, not doing anything for public safety except putting up a machine that collects money. And by the way, this deal that we've made with the company that makes these cameras, they have to replace the cameras. They've got 30 days to do it, which also makes me wonder, are these companies or the company that provides these cameras, are they getting a cut? And if they are, how much are they getting? It seems to me the city does absolutely nothing here. The vendor puts up the cameras. The vendor has to replace the camera if it gets cut down. Doesn't seem like this is costing the city any money, except in lost revenue, which they shouldn't have anyway. I'm not going to play any more of this twit. I've had enough. Olivia Chow is the face of it, but there's a lot of other mayors in other cities that have lost their minds, don't know how to budget, don't know how to control themselves when it comes to spending, and they've decided taxpayers can pay a little more, and they're coming after people for things that really should not be a fine. Doing a couple kilometers an hour over the limit is preposterous. And there was no happy medium. There was no negotiating with these people either. They said, you will shut up and pay that fine. You can't even fight these fines in the vast majority of cases. They just stuck it to us and said, tough if you don't like it. And they hid behind the veil of public safety. Doug Ford, do it. Take it away from these people because they are irresponsible. They're bad at math and they cannot be allowed to wrap themselves in the shroud of kids and seniors getting hit by cars. What happened to Vision Zero? There was a whole plan behind Vision Zero, and it originally did not include speed enforcement cameras. Why don't you get back on track with that, Olivia? Why don't you do that? Or just step down. Why don't you worry about the bigger picture, Olivia, and leave the cameras where they're going, hopefully in a pond somewhere, never to return again. By the way, I find it a little ironic that they put up cameras to try and catch the people who are damaging the cameras. And despite the fact that we're talking about cameras here that can take very detailed pictures of a license plate, they can't seem to get a picture of the people who cut them down. The surveillance photos that the Toronto police put out are all grainy. You can't see anything. That's got to be irony on some level, I would think. In any case, that was the talk on speed enforcement cameras. I am so glad to hear Premier Ford is going to step up and defend regular people and tell these mayors enough's enough. You figure out another way to make your money or you cut your spending. That is something that I think a lot of people would love to see. It's something Mark Carney is going to do. It's something Doug Ford is going to have to do in the spring. And it's something that every single city should be looking at. Stop the madness. You don't need to raise property taxes anymore. And you're not getting another penny from these speed enforcement cameras. And also, since Premier Ford pointed out what I've been saying for a while, these are a cash grab, then people should get their money back. Anybody who got one of these tickets should be automatically refunded, and let's forget this dark chapter in our history. Let's move on to another topic here. There's a lot of things that I want to cover in this episode. I'm going to do something briefly here that I couldn't do yesterday. It was an all Mark Carney episode because I didn't have anything new from Pierre Poilievre at the time. Yesterday, Pierre Poilievre talked about something that I think we need to discuss. Real estate value is dropping dramatically. This was very predictable. The economy is getting bad. We're in a recession. Massive layoffs are coming. People need to sell their homes, and in some cases, they're being foreclosed upon. Actually, before I get to Pierre Poilievre, just to give you a little more context on what I'm about to talk about here, I'm going to play a clip from another podcast. This is the John Flynn Real Estate Podcast, and he had on Ron, the mortgage guy. Ron's a real great personality, fun guy. He's usually got a pretty good take, and he was on this podcast talking about the state of the real estate market. Everyone should listen very carefully because real estate is the biggest investment that most people have got. Equity in your home. That's the difference between what it's worth and what you owe. If it's worth $1 million and you've got an $800,000 mortgage, you've got $200,000 in equity. Well, that is very rapidly depleting.
By the way, crazy stat. Compliments to the guy who, I'm sure his name is Joe Flynn, is the guy who found this. We believe, through his searching, that 3% of all listings in the TREB system may be power of sale.
I believe it. I've seen a few.
You've seen a few? You've seen some come through, right?
Oh, yeah.
Which compares with 2021, when they may have been less than 10 basis points of the listings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some people are still in denial. I've had people saying, what can I do? My house is currently in power of sale. Can you help me? And then there's still, and I've had a few where they were trying to say, listen, I think my house is worth this and the appraisers are wrong. And I have to have that conversation saying, I understand why you think that your house is worth that. Unfortunately, that's not what the banks use. You know what? There's no, and I have to be a bit soft because these are people losing their house, right? But yeah, there are a lot of people in power of sale, and I've spoken to probably one a week in the past few months.
Which is a revelation compared with previous times.
Not for this type of brokerage. Yeah, absolutely.
The real estate value is dropping a lot, and that's a big concern to people whose only investment or their only asset really is the equity they have in their home, because it's about to get swallowed up. When the price of homes goes down, that's good for people who want to get into the market. It makes those homes a little more affordable. And I have every reason to believe that interest rates are going to go down at least a half point at the end of the month. That could spark a little bit of a buying frenzy for those who are in a position to buy. But it's not good for those who got to sell. You thought you had, say, $200,000 in equity. What if that just basically overnight gets dropped down to $160,000 in equity? Then you pay your real estate commissions and that sort of thing, and bam, you got nothing coming out of your home. Every time the home values go down, you're losing money if you're a homeowner. So now we got to talk about what we're going to do about the housing crisis. Adding more homes to the market is probably going to continue to bring values down, to be honest with you. But the Prime Minister says we're going to be building houses at record speed, even though not a single house has been built yet. We do have another alternative, though. The Conservatives have their own plan. And yesterday, Pierre Poilievre was talking about the Conservative plan for housing. Listen to a little bit of this.
And so today, Conservatives, we're not just going to oppose Mark Carney and Liberal failures. We're not just going to hold them accountable for the Liberal immigration crisis, the Liberal cost of living crisis, the Liberal crime crisis, and the Liberal jobs crisis. We're actually going to propose solutions. As we go back to Parliament, we want Mark Carney and the Liberals to steal our best ideas so that we can reverse the damage that they have done. And so today I join with my Shadow Minister of Housing, Scott Aitchison, to call for the Liberals to immediately reverse the policies that have caused this new housing crisis with a 4-point plan. 1, axe the federal sales tax for all home buyers. I hear someone over here is giving a round of applause. She might be buying a home soon. For all home buyers, not just first-time home buyers, and for homes up to $1.3 million. 2, axe the capital gains tax on any monies reinvested in home building. So if a business or an individual sells an asset, they enjoy a capital gain, but they reinvest it in home building, there should be no capital gains tax. This will cause a building boom right across the country. 3, incentivize municipalities to free up land, speed up permits, and cut their own development charges. The Prime Minister claimed that he was going to cut development charges nationwide by half. Since he took office, those charges have actually gone up. I'm calling for the Prime Minister to put the resources in the budget so that we can incentivize municipalities to cut the taxes they charge on building new homes. And fourth, get immigration under control. We can no longer add people 3 times faster than we add homes. We're going to continue to have shortages. These 4 steps will reverse the Liberal housing hell, the disaster that has destroyed the dream of home ownership over the last 10 years. We are prepared to work with any party that will adopt these common sense ideas so that we can unleash a real building boom in this country that will mean bigger paychecks for our trades workers.
It's okay. I mean, I don't think there's anything great in there, personally. Cutting the sales tax, yeah, I don't understand why the government taxes us so many different ways. When you buy, when you sell, and things like that. It's crazy. Plus, they tax the income that you are buying the home with. It's preposterous. So yeah, that's got to go. Reinvesting the capital gains into home building, I don't think the government should be interested in our capital gains whatsoever. I'd prefer he stay out of it. Thank you very much. But anyway, that's his plan. That's his proposal. I don't know if that's going to solve the problem. We have 2 different crises going on in housing right now. We don't have enough of them because the Liberals brought way too many people here way too quickly. That we've got to solve, but that's okay. Mark Carney is apparently going to build a ton of trailer parks across the country and put people in glorified mobile homes and shipping containers, and they're going to be happy, apparently, living in this. I don't know that they will. Last time they said condos were the key, and look at how bad the condo market is. Nobody wants a condo. That's why people are losing their shirts on those right now, especially if they had one as an investment property. I'm thinking about the people who have a home in a subdivision, in a community, and they're watching the value drop. We've been in a housing bubble for a long time. Prices have been too high for too long. People that stuck it out through these massive interest rate spikes from that son of a bitch Tiff Macklem, people that stuck it out through the pandemic. Maybe it's time to flip. Maybe it's time to go. Maybe it's time for those seniors to get out of these big 4-bedroom double-car garage homes and go into something more appropriate and scaled to their size family, which is typically just 2 people, especially if they're empty nesters. That's what should be happening here. But now seniors aren't going to sell at a loss. If they saw that their house was worth $1.3 million and now they can only get $9 million, they're probably going to stay. Most of them have got it paid off. That's not going to help either. We need smart people to figure out how to thread the needle here. We don't want people to lose all of the equity they had in their homes and possibly end up underwater where the mortgage is more than the house is worth. And that's something that is coming. It's coming. People were over-mortgaged. That's a problem. How are we going to solve this? I actually don't have a solution. Not off the top of my head, I don't. If you've got a suggestion, I'd love to hear it. Something sustainable, because while I do agree we need more affordable homes, devaluing the ones that are currently out there is going to hurt a lot of people. Seniors that were counting on the equity in their home. I know they say you're not supposed to do that, but the reality is if you thought you had $1 million in equity on your paid off home and that $1 million goes down to $800,000, you just lost $200K. All of this was avoidable. All of this was preventable. All of this could have been done more gradually and much more humanely. A lot of people are about to learn a very expensive lesson, and I really feel for them. It's concerning. It really is. Let me move on. I'm actually going to circle back on something that I was talking about earlier. Premier Doug Flutie. He's taking a lot of heat right now because of a comment he made about the jobs market. And the gist of it, I'm going to paraphrase here, was that younger people in the workforce that can't find a job should be looking harder and be willing to accept jobs that they don't want to do. He also talked about this briefly yesterday at, I believe it was a Toronto Region Board of Trade meeting. I'm not exactly sure where he was, but either way, listen to the Premier talking about this topic.
I look at the job numbers. It boggles my mind. We have 230,000 jobs available, as you know, Tyler, through economic development, 230,000 jobs available right now. And we need to match the people up with the jobs. It may not always be in the area that they want or the sector they want, but we have to start picking up productivity. And it drives me nuts when I see young, healthy people, and they'll call me up saying, I can't find a job. I can assure you, if you look hard enough, it may not be, maybe be in fast food or something else, but you'll find a job, and that will take you to the next level.
That just sounds out of touch. I think that was a huge miss from Premier Ford. Whether it's true or not, that is not what people want to hear. It's not. Listen, I talked about this Friday during the listener DMs episode, and one of the things I pointed out is if you get offered a job, you should probably take it. Even if it's not your ideal job, it's not the industry you want to be in, a job's a job, and they are going to be harder and harder to come by. I don't know where the premier is coming from on these 230,000 jobs that are currently vacant in Ontario, but I lost my job last November. I went through months of looking for jobs, and I couldn't even get a call back. Not a call back. I got kids that fled Ontario, one to British Columbia and one to the States, because there are no jobs in Ontario. I certainly understand what the premier is saying, and I agree. If you need a job, take the first job available that works for you. Take it, because there's going to be no jobs soon. A lot of people are losing their jobs, and more people looking for jobs makes it more competitive to get the ones that are available. I agree with that wholeheartedly. To tell kids you might not get the ideal job, you might have to work in fast food. This is where I think the disconnect is, Mr. Premier. I think younger people would be quite happy to do that. And I'm thinking in this case about teenagers. Those fast food jobs at Tim Hortons and McDonald's and you name it, those were always the jobs that were available for teenagers. And they're not available anymore. And there's no shortage of those companies that are looking at the temporary foreign workers program. And they're thinking to themselves, you know what? I would much rather go that route where the government is going to subsidize 50% of their wages and I can tell them what to do and probably even take a cut of what I'm paying them. And that's the better way. That's the way that many of these companies are looking at it. And I don't think we should support those companies personally. If you're not already, follow Michelle Rempel Garner. She is the member of parliament for Calgary Nose Hill. Every day she's posting job postings from big companies in Canada that are looking for temporary foreign workers to do the jobs that would traditionally typically go to Canadian neighborhood kids. And that's the problem for young people. They cannot get those jobs. I just went through it. I got a 16-year-old at home. He handed out dozens and dozens and dozens of resumes and couldn't get a call back. Now, eventually, through a friend of a friend, we found him a job. But without that intervention, without that contact, he would still be looking for a job. The teen jobs are basically non-existent. They're gone. We've got a lot of seniors that have come back into the workforce because the cost of living is high for them as well. We've got a lot of immigrants here that are taking up jobs, and there's just nothing available for the local neighborhood kids who are really only available in the summer months and at Christmas break, March break, and maybe on weekends. For whatever reason, companies are not hiring them anymore. Now, when it comes to young adults, let's say those who are recent university grads, it depends on the industry you're trained in. I assume if you went to school and got yourself a business degree, you would absolutely like to work in business. If you got a marketing degree, you would like to work in marketing. I think the premier is more talking to you in his comments, not necessarily to teenagers. Again, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but the way I interpreted that, and a lot of people are crapping on the premier for those comments, I understand, but I also am going to try and translate a bit here. I think he was talking to young adults. Great that you went to Queen's and you got a marketing degree. Good for you. But if there are no marketing jobs available, you might have to take a job in a factory just to be able to earn income and pay your bills. That's kind of what he's saying. You know, for the premier to say, well, there's 230,000 jobs available and you just got to take whatever you can get. I kind of understand where he's coming from, but that doesn't also match reality on the ground. You know who else I want to hear from here is Liberal Minister Patty Hajdu. You remember Patty from her greatest hits like the lockdowns during COVID when she was the health minister and many other things. Well, she's been shuffled around. I'm not exactly sure if she has like dirt on the prime minister or how she managed to get back into cabinet when Carney took over, but here we are. She's back. And she says she wants to hear from people about the labor market. Let me play for you a little bit of a news conference that Patty did yesterday where she talked about the realities of the job market.
Youth unemployment numbers. I'm just curious why you think they're so high right now. Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, many economists say that youth are the canary in the coal mine, and as we see sectors threatened, as we see employers tighten up on hiring, often it is youth and those that are the newest and entering their career that are facing the hardest time to find that employment. And it's why today's announcement is so important, in fact, because making sure that youth have current skills, have relevant work experience. I think a lot of the work that the federal government funds and provinces and territories on work-integrated learning is a very important investment that has to continue. Young people need on-the-job experiences. They need to gain, as many employers say, soft skills as well as the credentials that they carry after their post-secondary education. So this is something that we have to stay focused on with provincial partners, with sectors like and organizations like AME.
Well, she didn't answer the question. The question was, why is this happening, Patty? And Patty didn't answer that because she can't answer that, because if she did answer that, she'd have to acknowledge it's her own government that did that. The economy is bad. That's got a lot of people doing two jobs. It has brought seniors out of retirement and back into the workforce, and they brought way, way, way too many people to this country way too quickly. That's the problem, Patty. In case you haven't noticed, that's the problem. Say it. I don't understand why they won't acknowledge it. Can we get any Liberal minister to come out here and acknowledge that those three things are a major reason for why we are in the situation we're in? I just want a little bit of honesty out of these people, and frankly, I'm not hearing it, and it's very, very frustrating. I want to play a couple more things. We'll go a little rapid fire on a bunch of different topics, but there are things I want to get into this pod so you can hear them. One of the things I talked about a couple of weeks ago was the fact that Las Vegas is a ghost town. Anybody going there right now comments on how dead it is. There's not a lot of people going to Las Vegas. Now, why would that be? I'm going to speculate after we hear from the mayor of Las Vegas, who is doing a little pontificating herself and putting out a plea to Canada. Please come back to Vegas.
A convergence of events right now. It's the economy is slow nationwide. Consequently, people are, keeping what money they have close, just in case things get worse or they lose their jobs. So I understand that. We have, as you know, there's less or a downturn of international visitors, which I'm very sorry about. We rely in part on Canadian tourism, and we love the Canadians, and we want them to come back and enjoy Las Vegas and everything that we have to offer. And so as the mayor of Las Vegas, I'm telling everybody in Canada, please come. We love you, we need you, and we miss you. So those are two things. Also, there is a concern that we, not the city of Las Vegas, but gaming industry in general, is nickel and diming people. They don't like it. And I think that's going to self-correct. I mean, if you have to pay $70 for valet parking, you're going to find out very quickly that people don't want to pay $70 for parking.
This is the first time I've ever heard from the mayor of Las Vegas, but I agree with what she's saying. Yeah, they do need Canadians back, and a lot of Canadians have canceled travel plans to America. We've also moved on. You know, Vegas used to be the destination. If you were having a boys' weekend, if you were having a bachelorette, that sort of stuff, let's go to Vegas. People have moved on to Miami and Nashville and other places. You know what a big problem is? The dollar. We lose 30 cents on every dollar. A lot of Canadians are not prepared to sink that kind of money into a vacation in Las Vegas when the dollar is as bad as it is. So that's not helping. Vegas also priced themselves out of the market, if I'm being completely honest. The mayor mentioned $70 to valet park your car. Get the actual out of here. No, absolutely not. Why are they charging a $50 cover charge to get into a nightclub? Why are they charging $20 US for a vodka and soda? They're charging stadium prices in regular bars for a beer. $16 US for a tall boy. That's why people are not going to Las Vegas. The shows are great. The attractions, great. The people, usually pretty good. But we can gamble on our phones now. We are losing 30 cents on the dollar. and we're tired of being gouged. So here's my advice to the mayor of Las Vegas. If you want Canada to come back, you're going to have to do something a little drastic and something you might not want to do, but this is the only way. You got to do what Walt Disney World used to do. Back in the day, used to maybe once a year or every other year, Disney used to run a promotion to try and get Canadians to come down to Orlando. And the promotion was very simple. Canadian money accepted at par. $1 Canadian is worth as much as a US dollar at Disney. That's what they used to do, and that's what Vegas is going to have to do as well. Book your vacation here, and we will give you all kinds of stuff at par to make your vacation more affordable. Because until that happens, nobody's going. Vegas has got to look in the mirror and ask themselves, are we going to be around for the next 40, 50, 60 years? And right now, the answer's got to be no. They've got to do something now, or the money they're spending to put in stadiums and new hotels, it's all a waste. Because nobody's going to go when the prices are that crazy and we've got a 30-cent dollar and a president who's trying to tariff the hell out of us. It's just not going to happen. Good luck, Vegas. I love you, but you're going to have to change your ways, and this is on you, not on us. I'm not going back there until I see a good, compelling reason to do it. Now I want to play something else for you. This is a comment that was made yesterday outside the White House by Robert F. Kennedy. He's come up 3 podcasts in a row, and I am having some unbelievable exchanges with some of my podcast listeners here in my DMs. Some of them I'm going to read to you on Friday during listener DMs. This one is not him talking about autism. This is him talking about advertising. And I think this is such an important issue. Here is RFK yesterday announcing a new executive order that has been signed by the president.
The president just signed an executive order that's an historic change in the way that pharmaceutical advertising is done on television. And the order basically reinstates or gives us now the opportunity to reinstate the 1997 rules. Prior to 1997, pharmaceutical advertisers were required to put all the side effects on their ads. Many of them didn't advertise because it lengthened because of what it did to the length of the advertising. And that the removal of that requirement in 1997, FDA changed the rule to allow them to report the side effects on a website or on a telephone. And they only had to report a few of them on television. And that triggered a proliferation of these ads. There's only 2 countries in the world that allowed direct-to-consumer advertising by pharmaceutical companies on television. We're one of those countries. New Zealand is the other. It's had a disastrous impact on human health, on people's relationships with their doctors, and really on the entire gestalt where Americans are led to believe that there's a pill for every ill.
If you didn't understand what he said, and if you didn't, I completely understand. He is a little hard to understand. Here's the deal. It used to be forbidden for drug companies to advertise on television without disclosing all of the side effects. And as I'm sure you've probably noticed, you might even remember some of these ads. Side effects include blah, 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 and they went on and on and on. There were so many side effects from some of these drugs that the ad would simply go too long. It would double the cost of advertising. So they didn't want to do that. And in 1997, the rules changed that allowed them to just report the side effects on their website, but they could still advertise on television. Well, that created a whole bunch of other problems that are now ending in America, and I think they should end in Canada too. He said the U.S. and New Zealand are the only countries doing it. I'm going to correct him. Canada does it too. We run a lot of television commercials for drugs. Prescription drugs. And what does that do? Well, number one, it gives the pharmaceutical companies a hell of a lot of influence over the television stations. A hell of a lot of it. And that's because if you want to keep getting in this drug money, if you want that Ozempic money, you better fall in line and you better not go against our narrative and go against what we want done. Maybe if drug companies weren't allowed to advertise, one of our mainstream media sources would have maybe called out the COVID shot and said, wait a second, there's some red flags here. Nobody wanted to do it because nobody wanted to close down that source of revenue. And the drug companies have got lots and lots and lots of money to spend. That gives them influence. But beyond that, there's more. These Ozempic commercials, I'll use that as an example. What does it say? Ozempic is great. It does this and that, blah, blah, blah. Talk to your doctor. Okay, so I've just seen this great ad for something that seems awesome. Now I'm going to go talk to my doctor. The doctor should really only be prescribing things that you need, that are good for you. They're prescription drugs for a reason. But when the drug company looks so great on TV, it's almost become a pop culture phenomenon, and you go to the doctor and the doctor says, hey, you don't really need Ozempic. This isn't a good idea. That creates an awkward situation with the doctor. And a lot of doctors are getting shamed and pressured into giving people drugs that they really don't need and shouldn't have. Ozempic is just one example. It should be forbidden for prescription drugs to be advertised on television. Think about this hypocrisy. Right now, any of these prescription drugs can advertise on TV, and they're given lots of money to our big mainstream media outlets. Lots of it. But then you get a legal drug like cannabis, which is one of the most restricted products in the country when it comes to advertising. They're not allowed to advertise at all, anywhere. No advertising for cannabis, which is a perfectly legal and regulated product. The drug companies, though, want to be able to advertise their whatever. And they're spending big money with the TV stations to do it. Why don't we have the courage and the guts here in Canada to say, no, we're not doing that in Canada? That's the end of it. We are not allowing drug companies to glamorize these prescription drugs on television and send them into their doctor's office asking for a script that they probably don't need. Two more things I want to play. One of them is the interview with my friend Jamie from this morning on Light 92, talking about the golf tournament this weekend. Again, if you're available to play, I hope you can. I'm going to roll right into Jamie in just a sec. But first off, yesterday, interesting new partnership was announced in Toronto between Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment and the Buffalo Bills. But it doesn't include an NFL game actually being played in Toronto. It seems to be more of like a marketing cross promo thing between the Buffalo Bills and the Raptors and Toronto FC and the Argos and things like that. I don't fully understand it. I'm not quite sure where this is going unless the eventual plan is for the Bills to be sold to MLSE. But that's fine. We'll wait and see what happens. If you're a longtime listener, you probably know I'm a huge fan of Bills quarterback Josh Allen. Yesterday, another legend in football was talking about how great Josh Allen is. The great Doug Flutie. Listen to this.
Doug, Sunday's game, where were you watching?
Okay, you guys are going to love it. The Canadian press will love this. I was watching it at the hockey rink because I had a 10:45 men's hockey league game. I didn't get to watch the comeback. I had to watch the highlights when I got home. I had that feeling about Josh all the time, that you are not out of a game. He plays the game the way I wanted to play the game, and I tried to play it, but he's a lot bigger, a lot stronger, and throw the ball through a brick wall, all that.
How'd you do in the game?
We won 5-1, had a goal and an assist, and I'm a horrible hockey player.
Doesn't sound like it. Goal and an assist. That's all right. Doug Flutie talking about Josh Allen. Friends, I will have another brand new episode of Scott Fox After 9 tomorrow. Right now, I'm going to leave you with the conversation I had earlier this morning about a great golf tournament that's happening this Saturday. If you're available, you get real good value for your fees. Go to burlingtondads.com. The tournament is at Carlisle Golf and Country Club. That is a Caniff golf course in Carlisle, Ontario. It's going to be a great time, and I would love to see you out. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.
We booked the entire course, all 27 holes at Carlisle, so we can have 216 golfers. And this year we've got about 50 spots that are available for up for grabs for a fun day, for sure.
Can anybody play, depending on their level of skill? I might be asking for me.
Anybody can play, and you don't have to be good to play. It's a scramble format, so the idea is just come out, have some swings, have a great time. There's tons of free stuff that's included with this. We've really hit a home run with sponsorships for this. So everybody that comes out gets a ton of stuff. They get the 18 holes of golf. They get a new hat. They get some Titleist golf balls. They get lunch, barbecue lunch, a dinner, non-alcoholic drink. Everybody that comes that's above 19 years old gets 2 alcoholic drinks. They get a golf towel. They get a 4-ounce candle from Cardin Candle Company, and they get a cooler swag bag as well. So there's a ton of stuff that you get included with it for sure. So it's awesome.
And this is actually raising money for good causes, though, in the community, too. Like, I hope people know that not only do you get a fun day, but you get the satisfaction of knowing that you helped. There are 3 charities that we're supporting this year.
Absolutely, yeah. So our presenting sponsor for this tournament was Matthew Stevenson Insurance. And with his support and the support of all the other sponsors for the tournament, we're able to help support one of our big initiatives that the Burlington Dad supports is mental health, both men's and women's mental health. So a portion of the funds is going to Capillary Wave Community. And then another big avenue that we support is children and families with autism. So we're donating funds to the Reach Out Center for Kids in Burlington. And then the rest of the funds will be going to the Help a BD fund that we run, which helps our 6,700 dads and families in our group. We help them internally when, people can't afford to get school supplies or
you guys really
can't
do
afford
so
a Christmas dinner.
You do so much good work for the community, and just this golf tournament is just proof of that.
I really appreciate that. It takes an army though. Like I say, we've got, as Scott knows, we've got 6,700 dads that, when the phone rings, we answer the bell. We're blessed and humbled to be able to do what we do. So it really means a lot to make sure that the money all stays local. We never donate any of the money to large national charities. We make sure that every dollar we raise, which in the last 6 years will total just over $800,000 at the end of this tournament, it all stays local.
You should see the look on Anna's face. It's true. The amount of money raised for great local causes is fantastic. So if you just threw the radio on, or maybe you're listening to the replay of this in my podcast, it is the Burlington Dad's Golf Tournament. It's happening this Saturday. It's the 5th annual. You get a ton of stuff with it. There are still foursomes available and individual golfers available. And if you don't golf, you can at least just come for the dinner afterwards. It's going to be a big, nice buffet. So there's lots of options there. And as you just heard, it's supporting a great cause. But Jamie, I want to sell this tournament out because it is for such a good cause. So we're going to up the game a little bit, and I'm going to put an offer on the table. Anybody who's registered by, when do you want to say? Tomorrow? Today? Friday?
Let's say end of Thursday.
End of Thursday. If you're registered by the end of the day tomorrow, we're going to throw everybody who is registered into a draw. If you win, you've got a chance to win another round of golf, but it'll be with me personally and with Jamie here.
Oh,
that's incredible. That's amazing.
So if you're registered, you are in to win that automatically. It's a round of golf with me, and when I golf, it gets a little crazy sometimes. So you're going to have a good time if you win that. And again, you're supporting a great cause. It's burlingtondads.com, I believe, to go, and you can sign up online for the tournament. Is that right?
100%. Yeah, thank you.
burlingtondads.com.
That's such a great initiative. Okay, so to golf with just you two, that's a great perk. But what's the deadline to get registered for this tournament? And of course, we want to get this full.
So our deadline for sure would be the end of Friday, since it's Saturday, and we've got to send in all the names to the golf course to get everything printed properly. But the perfect scenario would be hopefully we sell those last 50 spots by the end of Thursday, and there's 50 more people entered into the draw to come out for a fun round with Scott and myself.
That'd be great. Jamie, good talking to you. I will see you on the weekend, and I know you've got a lot of planning to do, but I'm telling you, it's worth it, and the money is so needed, so congratulations to you, and thanks for all the hard work you do.
Thanks so much for the support, guys. Really appreciate it.